Cincinnati. And we'd take the interurban from Cincinnati up here and stay maybe for a couple of weeks with Aunt Ina. Because she was a favorite relative of my dad. She was his sister, older sister. And they were very close. And we always used to love to come here because it was so quiet. And the ancient furnishings, but it just made for a peaceful place.
Yep.
And Uncle Jim always, there was a wood lot out that way, there was a grill, and he'd always take us out there for breakfast one of the mornings we were here.
Right.
Pancakes and bacon and eggs, the whole 6 yards. And he and I would work in the garden, which was behind the garage.
Oh, okay.
He had quite an extensive garden.
Oh, it was behind, okay.
Well, that's a good thing to know.
Yeah, we thought it might be over here near the pond.
No, it's right behind.
So what did they grow in the garden?
Well, they had pumpkins and squash and corn and tomatoes. I mean, a really large garden. And he really enjoyed working there. And I'd come up here, and in the morning he'd say, well, let's go work in the garden. I was just a little kid. But I always felt like he had me doing something important.
Of course. So you stayed for a while, stayed overnight?
Stayed for a week.
Where did you sleep?
Maybe 2 weeks. I don't remember.
Oh.
Too bad.
Okay.
But I remember this room, and especially downstairs. She used to have braided rugs everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Which she had done, and hooked rugs, which she had done herself.
Oh, I didn't realize
she
that.
She sold quite a bit.
And Uncle Jim had a job as a postal clerk, and he traveled from Toledo to St. Louis sorting the mail on the way. He'd be
On the
gone
train.
3 days, and he'd be back here for 4 days.
Wow.
I don't know what she did. I mean, we were here when he was gone, and you know, it was always something. We were here so that she wasn't alone, but I think she was alone 3 days a week. One of the things she disliked the most was that he had to carry a gun
Oh, he did?
as a postal clerk on the train.
Oh, wow.
On the train.
Which, that didn't make her very happy. She wasn't keen on drugs, on guns. But I can remember particularly one time here was in 1927. My sister, who's 18 years older than I am, was here also. And we were here when Charles Lindbergh flew the Atlantic Ocean.
Wow.
I remember listening to it.
1927.
Listening to it on the radio. And my sister was so moved, she went out on the front stoop downstairs off the cabin and cried. I was just struck by the contrast between the quietness and antique nature of this kind of stability represented by this, and the technological achievement of that. Excuse me.
Yeah, that is
Quite
neat.
an impression on me.
Well,
But
that's
I
why
always-
she moved out here, because it
Yeah.
was so quiet and she
Yeah.
would have time to write.
When did she move out here? Do you know that?
She rented
1920?
it as a summer cottage for years before she finally bought it in 1920.
Okay, here I was born.
Because supposedly she wrote right in the corner, right in that room, right there.
Well, 1913. She had wrote that in 1912.
And it got
And it was
published.
published in 13.
And she was saying, Trudy was saying that she rented here in the summers before she bought.
Yeah.
So she could have been here as a tenant.
One of the things that was said that Ina wrote her song while caring for her father, and I've heard that he was in a car accident, and then I've also heard that he had a stroke, and both of those reasons were why. Do you know which one's
Well,
accurate?
The stroke, I'm sure of. It's in the genealogy.
Okay, all
I
right.
think she felt, I mean, she was a caregiver.
Judy?
Mm-hmm.
No, I'm going to sit
And I
right here.
think she
No,
felt,
I'm going to
she had
go
hoped
over here.
eventually to be evangelist herself.
Right.
At the Chautauqua circuits.
Mm-hmm.
And she's really finally made peace with herself about that. And I think right in the corner in where you are is an expression
Right.
of her
Places to sit, Judy.
making peace with herself about not being able to be an evangelist at
Right.
Chautauqua circuit. So that her writing of hymns and poetry was a way to give expression to her own gifts.
Right.
And she felt quite good about that.
Yeah.
But it was always a pleasure to come. I always felt that we were very welcome here. And I especially liked Uncle Jim as well as Aunt Ina. It was just a wonderful place
Yeah.
to come into. And I think I became interested in living on the farm when I first came here as a kid. And eventually built a timber frame house out on 18 acres of land in
Oh,
Michigan.
okay.
You know, I was 60 years old when I started that, but I think this had an influence on my life that I hadn't realized until I, thought about coming back.
Right.
And what an impression it made on me as a place of comfort. And I don't know, there's something about it that felt very, very, very good.
How many acres did she have when you were here, do you know?
I don't know that. I know the woodlot was quite a ways, seemed like quite a ways, back to the back. And it was kind of walk back there to,
Did
Well,
you
the
chop
grill.
wood when you were young?
not here.
So you just worked in the garden with Uncle Jim?
Yeah, it was really good. It was very sandy soil, I remember that.
Hmm.
But he was a really good gardener. I mean, he knew how to raise things. They were,
So they raised a lot of their own food, vegetables and stuff in the summer, and
Yeah.
then did a lot of
Pumpkins
canning.
and Squash, and carrots,
Right.
radishes, cucumbers.
Well,
Green
later
beans.
on, Ina was famous for her strawberries. She used
Oh,
to
I
make a special
forgot that.
strawberry drink.
I forgot
When the
that.
paper boy would come to collect, because the paper boy is still alive, lives up the street.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And
That's
yes,
good.
and he came to collect, and if it was summertime, she would invite him into the kitchen, no further than the kitchen table, and give him strawberry punch that she had made in a big sugar cookie, and then a cloth to wipe his face. Yes, they remember that, and he sat right here and just looked around and remembered that.
That's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, it was cute.
Where is she interred?
Where is who?
Where is she
Where is
buried?
she interred? I know.
Oh,
Oh, Woodlawn
Woodlawn.
Cemetery.
Is that nearby?
Not really.
It's in
But where is
Toledo,
that?
isn't it?
Yeah, it's in Toledo.
Yes,
In Toledo?
and we have pictures
I
of her
Well,
graves.
they were very active in that Christian church, as you well know. They both
Yes,
taught Sunday
25
school.
years they were Sunday school teachers,
Yeah.
both of them.
see. Yeah.
And Brighten the Corner was the most popular. It sold 35 million copies.
That's why I'm here with the Duleys, because of that hymn.
Because
Yeah.
of that hymn?
That's his favorite hymn.
Is
Oh,
it really?
okay.
How wonderful.
We
It
learned that.
influenced me many years ago.
We learned that when we were.
Your turn.
How did it influence you?
Well, very simply in this way, Trudy. I decided a long time ago, I saw this hymn in a book in the Methodist church when I was a child. And I never forgot it. And as I grew older and so forth, I began to think about this line and this hymn that she wrote, and I remembered the melody so well. And it became the most important thing I could do in life,
Aw.
is brighten the corner where I was at the time.
Sounds wonderful.
Yes, it does.
That's simple.
So did
Well, thank you for sharing.
Ron,
Thank you for sharing.
Ron is the founder and president of a bank in Mason, Michigan. And he was on a committee that hired me to come to Michigan State University as the campus minister for the Presbyterian Church. And we were having dinner. We took him to dinner because we didn't long time friend.
Long time ago.
Yeah, and we were talking about various things, and he said, well, you know, him brighten the corner where you are, it just set my life. It's just determined my life. So Judy said, after we had dinner, she said, let's get a copy of the hymn and frame it, give it to Ron. Well, we got the copy. I went on the internet to find out when it was written because I didn't remember. And then I stumbled on your webpage.
Our website.
And
Oh, wonderful.
that's how we got here.
Thanks
Yeah.
to Melissa, our webmaster.
The date on which it was written and published,
Mm-hmm.
so I could put that on the copy
Oh,
of the hymn
so
in my
what
frame.
a wonderful gift.
And then I got to tell her, Ron, about what you've done here, and it's it's kind of a homestead.
Yep.
Certainly the Ogdon homestead, and as my father's sister had meant a great deal to him, he was very close to her. She was 13 when the family moved to the Dakotas to stake out a homestead. He was 8, and then his other brother was between he and Ina. And he was a lot closer to her than I think he was to his brother.
Yeah.
But of course, that experience, those 5 years in Dakotas, just really shaped their lives.
It sounds like it.
And I don't know how long it was into her career, but it was long after she had written a lot of verse and a lot of hymns that her son said, you need to write the story about the Dakota years. So she wrote it. She gave it to her son, who was then on the New York Times editorial board, and he tried to get it published. And the people he sent it to said, "Wow, doesn't have any love in it."
No, just tragedy
So
of
he
children
sent
dying
it
in the
back
snow.
to his mother, and she said, need a love interest. So she put a love interest in it. Well, knowing that, that's kind of a Victorian love story.
Yeah.
I mean,
Right.
it's really fascinating. But and then he couldn't get it published, so he gave it to his son-in-law, Joe Gardner, who was a professor of English at the University of Tennessee in Kentucky, in Lexington, and he tried to get it published, and he was unsuccessful. Well, my wife and I were in China in 1986 and 87, and Joe sent me this genealogy, wanting it fleshed out with about our side of the family.
Mm-hmm.
And in the course of all that conversation and writing went back and forth, I said, well, I've got this copy of the Dakota Dice, and I can't get it published. So he sent it to me. Well, I've had it sitting around the house. I've shared it with members of the family, and I've read it a couple of times. It's interesting to me because it's my relative.
Right.
I was about to bring it down here and give it to you folks, and then I got this email from Barry saying, no. Let's get it published and
clean it up first.
Copy. It was a published issue
Right.
of it, and then maybe we'll give them the original manuscript. But the original manuscript,
that would be
he thought
neat.
he would scan
They have
it.
the original manuscript would be great.
Well, he thought he would just scan it in, on his computer. Well,
Right.
It's got a lot of corrections in the ink, and it's not a final draft. It's a rough draft.
That's
Yeah.
the best part, because it's her
No,
handwriting.
it's the original. But anyway, it's going to take a lot of editing. I mean, Barry sent me an email and said, well, I've got an editor already who's ready to work on this. So
Oh, wow, that's good.
Oh,
And he
good.
was so excited when he found it was a copy that had the love interest in it because he was eager to read that.
The thing that John didn't identify that was a little bit, that made this luncheon we had long ago so very special was that I brought this up as this Brighten the Corner Where You Are is becoming so much more important in my life. The big point in our dialogue at the lunch was, well, John said, well, Rollin, the lady that wrote this hymn you're talking about was my aunt. That was the big thing about the luncheon.
And you were shocked, right? What?
Well, I thought that was wonderful.
Yeah.
Just the coincidence of it.
Yeah, exactly.
My father and mother traveled a good, but he worked for the Cincinnati Tailoring Company. And they visited Kentucky where their grandparents originally came from. Hiram Duley was an editor and a Presbyterian minister in Fundingsburg, Kentucky, and they had relatives. And I discovered that my wife also had relatives in the same part of Kentucky, which I didn't know when I married her. But anyway, I can remember when we would travel, we'd go to church on Sunday, and right after church, he'd go up to the minister and say, do you know the hymn, Brighten the Corner Where You Are? Oh, yes. Well, my sister wrote that. He was so proud.
Same
of
thing.
that. He wanted people to know that she was doing.
Yes.
But it's just this, everybody I run into when that hymn comes up, they know it.
They know it.
I mean, the secretary of our church at Oakland is not a Presbyterian, she's a Baptist. And she called it to my attention and said, you know, that's a hymn we sing all the time in our church.
Well, what a beautiful
Yeah.
statement it is.
Mm-hmm.
Just,
So it doesn't
just
count.
those few
Everyone
words.
knows it. People
Yeah.
walk in, you know, for the tours, and somebody sat right down at the piano and played it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that
And a week ago at the Woodlawn Cemetery, they had a program about the important women that are buried in Woodlawn, and Ina Duley Ogdon was one of them. So I gave them the background information and the CD of the Sweet Adelines, who were nice enough to record it for us. And when it came to be Ina's turn, and they played the CD, everyone in the audience sang it. They all knew
They
it.
all knew that hymn.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
It was wonderful.
Does
Yeah.
anybody sing any of the other hymns she wrote?
I gotta be.
There are actually
Well, there
some
are others,
online
but
that
this
been
is still
recorded.
the most popular, and it's simple, and kids can sing it.
Oh, yeah.
So, you know, and it's very cheerful.
Yeah.
So he's gonna play it for us?
Who knows?
Yes,
Yes, he is.
That's it. Music. Bravo!
Woohoo!
Oh, thank you.
So good to come back and see what you've done.
Yes.
So he is a godsend, to say the least, that he was
So he's
willing.
putting all the money for the renovation.
Yes, and we're trying to do fundraisers to help him because he bought it strictly to prevent it from being torn down, because I had a list online through my website where I would give updates on what we were doing to try to save the place, and the owners contacted me and told me I could have this cabin if I could remove it from the premises. The rest of the house was going to come down. And I said, no.
No.
And so,
Not the man who bought it, but
no, the previous,
Previous
because I
owner,
couldn't
yeah.
get anybody to buy it with the condition it was in. And so I let him know, and he said, nope, I'm calling him now, I'm buying it to prevent that from
Oh
happening.
my God.
And he didn't even see it. I mean, he
Was he a
saw a
local
pic,
guy?
he
Yes,
grew up
he lived-
around here, and,
On Smith Road, and
Yeah.
he used to walk right by here every day to school.
right, he's a
When he was a
teacher
kid.
at Cornell
Oh, New York.
University.
And I used to worry a lot about people. I mean, we went to, once when I was here, we went to the zoo, and I got a balloon.
Can I get your jacket?
She
please?
was very careful, and the balloon didn't carry me. She wanted to you're really sure that the balloon wouldn't carry me away. And that little pond out there that you saw, that little pond.
The little one.
that had the fish,
Yeah.
I was afraid I'd fall in there. And
Oh,
I got
That was so
close.
tiny.
the
Were
bit,
there other ponds? Because she had several on the premises, according to the previous owner.
So the one I remember is that little one right out there,
Mhm.
which is,
And had goldfish in. Okay, we can do that.
yeah.
No
Mm.
problem there. It's the big one that we have to work on.
it had a lot of beautiful flowers around it.
Oh,
A lot of-
yes,
a
you
lot of
can
her
see from the
poetry-
the books that she did.
Yeah, a lot of the poetry is about the flowers.
Yep.
And also, she has a very favorite flower that grew on the prairie in the Dakotas.
Oh,
She
What
read
was it?
The Pasquale flower.
Oh, okay.
There's a poem in the book about it.
oh, okay.
And so she is very, the one on the woodlands is pretty much about flowers and trees. And the keepsake of the old house is a richer volume of poetry that covers a lot.
Yeah, they would have grandmother's memory string
Yeah.
or something like that in it.
Yeah.
About the
There's a
buttons.
neat poem in there about how dirty her neighbor's windows were. She cleaned hers, and she found out the neighbors were spick and span. That's the only funny poem I ever saw. I thought it was great.
Yes, it is.
I don't know how familiar you are with just how popular her song is, but I don't know if you know, there's just enormous amounts of advertising that was used to brighten the corner where you are. I mean, the musical notes, just anything and everything people tried to sell, it was all about brighten the corner where you are.
Anything from soap to bank accounts.
Everything and anything, and so
It was used for advertising.
advertising, I mean, just
When?
When would that be?
All still everywhere.
Yeah,
I've got a
since
lot of newspaper stories and articles, and as a matter of fact, we used one of them. I have it in the closet. Let me get it. Hang on.
Jeff will love it.
Well,
Then?
no, I came to visit Aunt Ina.
And so,
My parents lived in Cincinnati, and we would come up and visit.
oh,
And we used to go out to the wood lot and cook on the grill that Uncle Jim had out there for breakfast. Oh, that was a ritual.
oh.
We had to do that every time we came.
Well, I'll have to tell Jeff.
Yeah.
Well, see, we lived straight through, so he would walk through the woods on his way to school.
Okay.
Because he refused to take the bus. The whole time he was over on Douglas Road in Summerfield, he wouldn't take the bus. So he would walk through, and he said, and there was somebody who lived here, some lady, and I used to pick some strawberries. They probably, he said they were wild, but they probably weren't wild. They probably were growing in her garden.
Absolutely.
And he always was very friendly and knew everybody. And remembered this, and and would walk down this way and explore around.
Well, so wonderful.
So this is your son. So he used to walk through the property on his way to school every day.
Yes.
So he probably even got to know Aunt Ina.
No, but he, see, we didn't move in till '58, so
Oh.
he knew Sedora McDonald.
Okay.
It was the one who lived here.
Lived 6
Sedora
years.
Barnett's mother lived here, and I knew Sedora. I knew Barnett's and then Sedora McDonald before she died.
So so Ina did not live here until she passed away.
No, she moved out in 1950.
Yeah, I mean, she lived
She couldn't
14
keep it up
more,
herself.
she lived 14 more years somewhere.
In Toledo.
Yes.
In
Yeah,
Toledo.
yep. I have a picture of that house on the
I see.
website too.
She moved out in 50?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's, and Uncle Jim died in 49.
Yeah.
He died a year after my last visit here.
Oh, okay.
And nobody ever told me. I mean,
Oh my goodness.
Wow. You were off to college then, right?
No,
No,
I
he
was
was working.
notified of either of
Was he
their deaths.
working?
Oh, wow.
You didn't see her in later life then?
Only at 40. The last time I saw her was 1948.
Oh,
Just the year before
yes.
Uncle Jim died.
I see.
And she lived till 64.
63 years ago
Yeah.
was the last time you saw her.
Yeah.
60, and she
Wow.
You still remember how it was.
Oh my, this was a place I always enjoyed
I
coming.
bet.
Yeah. It was so pleasant. I mean, and Uncle
Yeah.
Jim was such a pleasant person. I'd say, let's go out and work in the garden, and
Mhm.
a kid who was 6, 7, 8 years old, like he could do something.
Of course. But you learn child labor
And you
laws,
slept
right?
up.
Do not wait until some deed of greatness you may do. Do not wait to shed your light afar. To the many duties ever near you now be true. Brighten the corner where you are. Brighten the corner where you are. Brighten the corner where you are. Someone far from harbor you may guide across the bar. Brighten the corner where you are. Brighten the corner where you are. Here for all your talent you may surely find a need. Here reflect the bright and morning star. Even from your humble head the bread of life